Let's do it.
All right, one sec. We're fixing Carlton. We're fixing
Can't
Carlton.
wait for Nick Austin to steal my idea.
Pomodori. We're fixing Carlton. All right. Well, we're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another. Pom, is this an emergency pod? I feel like it's an emergency pod. We've
They're all emergencies in trade period.
So Pom comes up to me. What was it, Pom? 2 days ago, and says, "I've done it. I've fixed Carlton. I know how we can get all these players, and obviously, off season is a wacky time for us because there's endless possibilities until we see official confirmation that a player is either signed with us, re-signed with their own club, or signed with another club." So, Pom, today where you've figured out a way that we can get all these magical trade targets into the club in a realistic fashion, and that's really what we're going to go through today. So, talk to me. How are we going to do this?
Okay, well, I mean, obviously, what you've got to do is at the moment we've got pick 7. Now, pick 7 is probably more valuable this year than it is any other year, particularly to clubs that are looking at certain players earlier in the draft, because we know it's a heavily compromised draft. So, rough calculations, 8 players in the top 30 are tied to NGA academies. And one of them picks, which is really intriguing, that isn't landlocked to any club, is a guy called Tanner Brown. Now, he's a Geelong boy. Now, he has trained with the Cats. Now, if you're the Cats with 15 and 16, chances are he's probably not going to slip there because 15 and 16 could become 22 and 23. So if you are the Cats, that is where you may be looking to trade up, especially with them 2 picks, because they potentially could become second rounders if people start in bid. And I do predict Sauce set a precedent last year doing it by bidding on people's academies. I can see that happening again.
Yeah, absolutely, and force them to make the move.
I 100% can see that starting to happen again this year. It's just, doing it because the AFL, all the clubs have started to complain about it. The AFL have announced they're going to look at next year making it that you can't bid and you can't match bids in certain pick categories, particularly the first round. So I think you are going to start to see, especially teams like Adelaide, exploit this and be like, well, you know what, we'll just force you to burn picks straight away. So based on that, I'm proposing pick 7 and 45 go to Geelong.
Okay. Now pick 7 and 45.
Yeah, indeed, yeah. And we get 15 and 16. Now, on the back of that, it is a little bit, we're ripping Geelong off. Not by much, by about a 3rd round pick. However, Tanner is exactly what they need. And if you watch them in the Port Adelaide game last night, they definitely need that inside-out type player, and Tanner fits the bill. He's billed as the next Trent Cotchin. He's got very cripple-like tendencies on the ball. He would really complement that midfield, and he's something Geelong don't have. So it would be a big sell to Geelong that they would probably get their man at 7. There is Henry Oliver as well, who's kind of like a clone of Dustin Martin almost, a bigger Dustin Martin. So there's 2 Geelong boys, and Geelong do have a habit of going for Geelong-born players and keeping it in that system. The Geelong Falcons, one of the most successful systems in the under-19s franchise. So I reckon that would be something that Geelong would probably look at and go, I like this.
Yeah, that's a guy you think they would definitely need, and they're in that situation where they'd be willing. Well, they'd need to take a bit of a risk and to get their guy in. So, okay. Let's just say that happens. We get 15 and 16.
So we get 15 and 16. So obviously what we do with 15 is Mr. Adam Saad. Now, Essendon are itching for a first. 7s for me is way overs for Adam Saad. He's a very good footballer. Pick 7, though, I'm not a fan of because pick 7, they've got 6. 6 and 7 for me are really valuable. You've got to remember that the pick 1, old Hugo Hagen, he's academy locked, so that will go. So 6 and 5, they're probably 1 pick better in theory. So for me, 15 is about Adam Saad's money. I think it helps Essendon out. They get a very good deal. His value by the AFL, if it was a compo pick, is somewhere in the late first, early seconds. So 15 knocks that out of the park. It's a good deal all round. We get our man, and Essendon, they get their pick that could be used for a trade, could be used in the pool. You just don't know, but it's a good pick, and I reckon Essendon would be happy with that.
We have 15 and 16. We trade 15 for Adam Saad. What happens next?
So then what we do is now this could be any player. I've selected Matty Kennedy purely because with the ins going, and he seems to be out of favour, it could be the type of player that would be on the outer. Now, he's in a similar contract situation to Adam Saad. So if we do look to trade him, it would be one of them where we token match the bid to force the trade through, a bit like Nick Newman was a couple of years ago. Very common in the AFL. And what this would get us, it would be 57 and 65. Now, they're not great picks. You might argue they're under, but there is a backup plan. It works out as rough third rounder, that does for him, an early third. They're kind of nothing picks, 57 and 65. But it's very important for Pom's strategy, it is, that we get these. But you could name it in any player. There's a lot of players that I've seen in the fan forums, Carlton have said we could maybe on trade. You know, you've got Lockie O'Brien's in that category. There is that story circulating in the press, heaven forbid, that JSOS has a contract offer for North Melbourne. But all these players would command a minimum of these 57 and 65, maybe better. But for the purpose of this exercise, I've selected my boy, Matt Kennedy, because I like him. So I've got a little bit of emotional attachment. But we get 57 and 65 in to the club.
Right.
Do you follow?
I'm with you. 57 and 65 for Kennedy. We've already got Saad. We also have pick 16 left. Okay. What do we do with 57 and 65?
65 is we do a little bit of a dodgy. Now, Tyson Stengel, he's a little bit of a on the outer at the moment. He's had his second indiscretion in 12 months. He is related to our legendary Eddie Betts. Now, I think in a normal situation where salary caps are normal, lists are normal, I reckon Stengel would be fired. I genuinely do think Adelaide would wash their hands with him. However, I think because he's tied up in a contract, I don't think they would. So I propose that we do the old help. And we say to them, look, we'll take the risk. Now, we can afford to take the risk. We've got Eddie Betts there. Take out the relation of the cousin situation. He's the kind of guy that has been through something similar. Now, Eddie Betts wasn't involved in drugs or anything like that, but he does admit that in his early parts of his career, he did have issues off the field. Now, this would be the perfect role model for a guy like Tyson, and Tyson is elite, has the potential to be elite under the right guidance. And I think Carlton Football Club are in a position to take the risk now because we've got that set up for these young players. You've got Wheater and you've got Walsh, wonderful role models of young players. But then you've also got the older contingent, Ed Kerno, Liam Jones, Eddie Betts, who have never had issues off the field and are very model professionals. So he's got a real good environment of a young, mature list. So I think he'd be worth taking the risk on.
So how do we get him in?
Pick 65. So we give them a token pick. It gives them a chance to go out there. There's a lot of wonderful South Australian talent out there. And also South Australia is a wonderful place to be if you're a list manager because they've had regular junior footy and senior footy. So a lot of these young players have been playing regularly. So they've got a lot to go on, a lot of intel that the Victorian clubs won't be privy to as well as the South Australian department. Okay. So I think it helps both clubs out. It takes a risk factor off their list. They get a pick. Everyone's happy.
Okay. It's interesting. I'm not sure if Adelaide will take 65, but I get your point of, well, in a normal world, they'd probably sack him. So if they're going to go down that route, well, you might as well get a pick for him. Okay, so we have Saad, we have Stengel. We've used picks 15 and 65. Now what?
Well, then we go on to the free agency. So obviously we've got Zachy Williams here. He comes into the club. We just pay his salary. He gets to bob around in the midfield and become a hero. everyone's happy. I don't think we argue with Zach Williams. I think he's a great talent, and instantly the list is better.
Yep.
That's an easy one. My other free agent signing is Mr. Isaac Smith. Bring Isaac Smith in. He's cheap. He's experienced. Again, see what I said about Stengel. Another guy that is mature. He's won 3 flags. He's a perfect type of player for Carlton because he's young at heart, but he's very professional at the same time. So he's going to really integrate with the younger boys straight away and offer that much needed experience. And especially for a year or two, it's going to really up the training standards and the training values of this football club.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm all about that. All about that. I think he is the epitome of what you and I have been talking about, particularly in the last half of the season. Can we get some winners in? Okay. So Isaac Smith, Williams, Stengel, and Saad. Is that it?
Of course it's not, because I've got a future first in this one, and this could be any player, but I've chosen one because he's poignant. He's in the press at the moment, and I'm proposing 16 and a future first rounder for a man, quote, who was unhappy to win his 5th B&F award, Clayton Oliver.
Wow. So 16 and a future first for Clayton Oliver. Wow.
And you could replace that with any star you want. 2 first rounders genuinely gets the job done. You could add, there might be some pick swaps, like a future Carlton's 4th for a future 3rd. You know, they trade down a little bit of a top up. But I'd say in this current climate, that is probably a fair value. I can't see many players going for more than 2 firsts this year.
Yep.
And I think it may be something that they look at, particularly with the rumours that the Brayshaw boys want to play together. Is that something that Melbourne maybe would be confident with Fremantle, who have 0 picks? They only have 2 picks this year. Is that something that they maybe entertain and think, can we maybe pry Brayshaw from Fremantle? It could be I reckon it could be a merry-go-round with Fremantle this year, because they have only a couple of picks. So they will be touted. All teams that have small picks always get attacked in a trade period. So I could see that this could cause a merry-go-round. It's bold, and I think we need to be bold. But Clayton Oliver, potentially, it's well on his money. Bring him to the club.
I like. Look, I'll be honest. This is the best case scenario, mate. You've just fixed the club. You've got Grunt. You've got help for Cripper. You've got an injection of speed. You've got winning experience. And none of those deals really seemed completely far-fetched, unless Adelaide decide, no, we're going to back in Stengel and he's not going anywhere, which I would also believe that to be the case. But if they do take the tune of, listen, you're out of control, we can't do this anymore, very similar to how we handled, I guess, the Favola situation, even the Eddie Betts situation, and maybe not Eddie Betts, other players who had off-field issues, and we had to cut ties, and maybe it was just time for a fresh start. So there is a little bit in that. I think the Adam Saad for 15 is a no-brainer. I think that's a good deal for both sides. I think obviously Isaac Smith and Zach Williams. Well, Williams is all but at the club according to most reports, and Smith would probably take some convincing, but we don't have to give up picks or anything like that for him. And who knows? I like this, mate. This is what trade time's all about, isn't it? These are the discussions that it's all about.
Oh, 100%. I mean, this is what we do, isn't it, really? This is what Pom does. He froths this kind of thing. But like for me, it's just, I don't think so far, I don't think any of these trades are unrealistic. And I think in current climate, it's a little bit different this year when you look at it as opposed to other years. It's a little bit more complex. The draft isn't as exciting as it usually is, because obviously the indecision of a lot of clubs. You've also got the problems with some teams don't have enough picks to fulfill the 3 allotments. And I think there's a lot of sub-stories that we don't know about. And there has been a lot of articles today that Carlton are planning something that's not been mentioned. So I've tried to look at outside the square, where to me, I think Geelong, with pick 11, 15 and 16, them first rounders are gettable. And I think they'd entertain that 7. So you can change Clayton Oliver to Tim Taranto, even though his agent this morning has said no. Ollie Wines, you could change it to. It's them two first rounders are commodities, and it's will teams take the risk. But I think Geelong would be someone I'd be looking at for pick 7 to break it down to make the Saad deal more palatable, because I think 7 would be suicide. I personally do.
Okay, Pom. So the players have come in, fantastic. We also need to be within, the parameters of the draft rules where we've got to take 3 picks. So we've got. Tell me about the picks that we have remaining, and what do we do with them?
Well, we've got 27, we've got 57, and we've got 81, and then we'd have a rookie pick. So I'm proposing there what we're doing now is we're looking at filling holes. We're looking at where is our age on the list and where's the backups coming from. So for me, with 27, there is a no-brainer here. We've got to take the best available player. We've got to take a risk. We've got to fill a big hole. Now, for me, I think that's down the back. I think we're looking at someone who can maybe grow into the Liam Jones role. And for me, someone that we can wait on, lean on a little bit, but someone who's got a high ceiling. And that is none other than Tasmanian Devils legend Sam Collins. Every year I get excited by a draftee. I love this kid. This kid is an intercept marking genius. For me, he's the next Tom Stewart. He's a little bit taller than Tom Stewart, but he attacks the footy so well. It suits the brand that Teague plays as well, and it's the role that Liam Jones looks to do. Play loose, attack the ball. For me, he would be a natural down the back, someone that will give Plowman probably towards the end of the year a bit of competition. If Carlton think, let's go from a lockdown role to someone who's going to look to intercept it. Real good with score launch. He's got a good turn of pace, high footy IQ, and he's real beautiful by foot. Touted at the moment to go between 30 and 40. So for me, pick 27 will take him a little bit earlier, but we definitely lock in a man that I reckon will be an All-Australian in the next 5 years. He's a supreme footballer.
Okay. Who would we get next?
We're going to South Australia, Henry Nelligan, pick 57. So this kid here could be anything. He'll be around this pick. Small, diminutive, good turn of skill, runs through the midfield and plays in the small forward position. I think when you've got Eddie Betts at the club, you've got a lot of young forwards. I think he would really fit the bill. He's someone that is a nice project. He's played senior footy at a young age as well and had some success with it. Knows where the goals are. He also finds the ball when he's played midfield as well. So for me, he's someone that I like the look of and I think could really build into that small forward position. He's got real good footy nous, knows where the goals are, good IQ, good pressure as well. For me, he's someone at 57 that is a no-brainer. He's got all them facets you look for to build.
Okay. And the final pick?
And then pick 81, familiar face, Sammy Fisher. He's confirmed he's entering the AFL draft. He's played at the Northern Blues. He's just won the Sandful. For me, I'm shocked he's not on the Carlton list already. I think, for me, he was someone I would have taken a punt on last year. But he's got it all. When I think of Tim Kelly, I think of Mickey Gibbons, players that have been traditionally overlooked by AFL teams. He's done it the hard way. He's gone to VFL. He's played for Northern Blues. He's then now gone to the Swans in Western Australia, who are not a good side. They're not a side that's dominant. He's done it the hard way. His entire history really is, take the long road. And for me, he could be that little next player. You just don't know. But for me, you've got to take the risk on these players. Big body, can play small forward, does play on the ball. It could be something. And for me, at 81, you're never going to get mercurial talent. You might as well get a senior body in and someone who could potentially play round one body-wise. And I get a feeling he would be one of them players that if he was given the senior list, he'd smash it day one. I've just got a feeling about him. And for me, it's risk-free footy, that. 81, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Yep. Interesting. Okay, so those are the 3. Do you have anyone lined up for the rookie pick? Because you said we've got one.
I do. A good person here who I love watching, brings a smile to my face. And I'm thinking you've got young Sammy Collins, you've got Liam Jones. You're looking for that backup for Liam Jones, but also enough time to let anyone just grow naturally. And I think it's a no-brainer for me. Majak Daw, I expect him to carry on playing. For me, I love Daw's game. I think Daw's game is phenomenal. I'm shocked North have got rid of him.
Yeah.
And for me, he's cheap, and he's he can play at this level. He can perform. He tempts in the ruck. He can go forward as well. He gives you a lot of options. And for me, as a rookie selection, it's a no-brainer because he can play any position pretty much in the tall situation. Good engine, good fitness levels, and you know what he gets. So for me, he's a perfect rookie selection. And dangle that carrot of the senior list when the lists extend again. I like it. I like that pickup.
I would love Majak Daw. I would absolutely love him to be at the club next year. That would be a phenomenal haul. So let's recap right here. Who have we brought in? Saad, Isaac Smith, Zach Williams, Clayton Oliver, Tyson Stengel. But what about the last chat we had about the list sizes? Are we still within the list sizes?
Yeah, we'd still be in we bang on the list sizes based that we delist the players that are out of contract now. So we would be literally in a good position. So if you look at the guys you expect to leave the club, it's a no-brainer. You've got your McCready's in there and things like that. I don't think there'd be many arguments about players that have been delisted. And I think what you've brought in offsets that as well for me, because you've got players there that have got real high ceilings and also showed a bit. Like even Tyson Stengel, like he killed us when we played him. Like, his quality. I mean, they say he's a mini Eddie Betts. Potentially, we've brought in players there, like you've brought Eddie Betts back in 10 years ago. Potentially, you've got a real good ins for what we've lost. Yeah. And it's made the squad stronger, and strong squads win flags.
Yeah. Well, mate, you've congratulations, you've fixed Carlton. That's it.
Give me a call, Nick. I'll get it going for you, mate.
I think this is what trade period and draft period and free agency period. This is what it's all about for us. We're having the discussions and how do we do this and how do we do that. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of merit to a lot of the things you've said here. But let's leave it to the people at home. What do you think about the draft strategy, the trade strategy? Do you have a strategy? It'd be pretty cool to see what other people's strategies are if they've actually taken the time to think about it, because this is one of those periods where we talk about we're going to get this player and that player, but how are we going to do it is the next level. So it's been good, mate. Thank you very much, and I look forward to the next emergency pod.
I love it. See you soon, guys.